when I think of the media in America today, and I'm going back to Trump's trying to walk back some of what he said, and here's why I think Hannity's wrong. And here's why I don't want to be Hannity. I don't think $50 million a year, but I don't want to be, I don't want to be Hannity. I don't want to be perceived as that guy. Hannity defended the night before last something that Trump said he didn't even intend to say. And I think you become incredibly shallow and lack credibility. And I'm not, I mean, you and I have had this debate, and I think a couple of our callers have, opined on Hannity's bulldoggish nature, and he feels like he's got to do it because he's the only one out there pushing the envelope.
And I agree with that.
And I get that. You know I understand that. But Hannity defended the night of the Helsinki summit, for lack of a better word, something Trump said that Trump now says he didn't intend saying. And I just don't want to be that guy. I think Trump had a bad day. I was trying to tweet something about it yesterday, and it never would come out the right way. Trump has a bad day, and the media turns it into the worst day in the history of the American presidency. And I think a couple of our callers yesterday mentioned, I understand why Trump responded and reacted as he did. There were the people in the room who have basically said the only reason you're president is because of this guy standing beside you. And I think, and I got a couple of theories today after more closely watching the video and audio of what happened in Helsinki. Trump, for the first time in my observations, looked tired. I mean, he'd been traveling, and I get that he doesn't travel like most of us. I mean, he's in Air Force One. There's bedrooms, and there's, sleeping quarters, and there's, office. I mean, I get the fact that he's traveling, in a very five-star manner. But he's still traveling around the world, different time zones. He's 72 years old. He's a fairly, in shape. And I just think he looked tired. I just think when I went back and looked last night, when he walks out onto the stage, he had a fatigued look about him that is dissimilar to any other time. And we know how we are when we get fatigued, when we get real tired. And I'm not making excuses. I'm not trying to ingratiate myself back to the listeners that took exception. You'll probably take some exceptions of what I say today. That's always welcomed here. I just think a couple of things. I think he looked real tired. And I get that. Your European Union, you're flying to Helsinki, you're doing this, you hadn't been home in a long time. Maybe you're having a bad day. But I think for the first time, Trump looked tired. And I think secondarily, he let his emotions get the best of him. I think after really going back and reviewing yesterday for about an hour, a couple of clips and questions and some of the commentary, I think he let his emotions for the first time get the best of him. And one of our callers yesterday, I can't remember who, said, he was in the room with the people or in the room with the guy that, this is the guy that helped you get elected president. And he wanted to affirm, he's not. I mean, this guy's not the reason I'm president. From what I'm understanding now, I think CNBC reported it, the Wall Street Journal reported it, and I think even Bloomberg. I don't know why those three more financially literate publications or websites are reporting, but they had made a deal that he was going to indeed kind of confront Putin in that fashion in regards to, you can't mess with our elections, man. I mean, that's just something, a democracy has to trust in the integrity of its elections. And when you come and try to influence it, you're playing in our sandbox, and we're not going to stand for that. We're not going to allow for that. And for whatever reason, Rev, he got out there, and I think his personal feelings got the best of him. His apology yesterday, not necessarily an apology as much it is a walk back, walking back some of the previous day's comments were very weak. I think there was a much better response, and I think the response should have been, and I think this is when I say I think I understand Trumpism better than Trump, and I think Ray's given me some credit for that. I think the Trumpism in all of us, those that aspire for this movement to continue, I think we would have liked to have seen Trump say yesterday, look, I had some things written down. You know, our press team had written some things down. There was a coordinated effort, as there always is when an American president speaks. But I'm real aggravated. And maybe he could have been a little more colorful. Trump can get away with some of that. I'm PO'd about this investigation, about the fact that I'm being accused of the illegitimacy of my being elected is an insult to the many, many millions of hardworking Americans who took a chance, rolled the dice on a guy who had no political experience. And I've had enough of it. I've had enough of the mainstream media, the political media, the deep state, the politicos, the Bob Corkers of the world, the Ben Sasses of the world, the Chuck Schumers of the world, the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. I've had enough of those people telling me the reason I'm president is because I cheated or somebody gave me, you know, the election on a silver platter, that being the Russians or the Indonesians or it didn't matter. And I think that would have been a much better response to the mistake. And I still believe he made a mistake. And apparently he believes he made a mistake because somebody convinced him to kind of walk back some of the language. And I go back to what I did yesterday and what Hannity did the night before. And look, man, Hannity's got a bigger audience, makes a lot more money. I don't think he's any better at what he does than we are. I really don't. Now millions of people do. He's a nationally syndicated host. He's got a highly rated TV show. I understand that. And if you do what we do, ratings and revenue are the mother's milk of media and broadcasting. But Hannity now, well, I mean, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't have any interest. But to me, Sean Hannity supported something that the president now admits even isn't what he intended to say. And I just think you lose credibility with people. I just think you begin to appear to be kind of in the pocket. And I get the mistake Trump made. I am easily understanding of some of the language he used. But I stand by what we said yesterday. I think it was the worst day of his presidency. Now, he's got the advantage of having the mainstream media hating him the way they do hate him. And that's right, I'll use that word. They hate him. It's not that they pick apart his programs, his agenda, his platforms. They hate the notion. They despise the very notion of this person being elected president, and they despise the universe of people who pressed the button, pulled the lever, allowed for this to happen. And it's what I call, and I made a note this morning, it's what I call irrational hatred. Hatred's kind of a horrible emotion anyway. You know, I tell my kids, I've always kind of lectured to my kids throughout their young lives. They'll say, I hate hot weather. We don't hate, man. We don't hate anything. You know, we don't like. We wish it were different, but we don't hate anything. Now they don't mean it, obviously, literally. It's figuratively. I wish it were much cooler. Alec complains about this hot weather. You know, I hate the hot weather. But hatred is a powerful, influential, and easily misguided emotion. And I think the saving grace of Donald Trump and his bad day a couple of days ago, his equally bad walking back. I mean, he's trying to say it was grammatical. You know, I read something wrong, and there was a double negative in there. I just think the proper response would have been to say, look, man, I'd been traveling all over the world, trying my damnedest to look after American interest. And I got on that stage with that guy, and I let my emotions get the best of me. And instead of doing what's right by the American people, I thought about myself for a second, and that's not right. I've got to understand that American politics is tough. It's rough and tumble. I don't think I get treated fairly, but a lot of people don't believe they get treated fairly. And instead of doing what I should have done, I allowed that room full of irrational or media folks full of irrational hatred toward me and ultimately you, the American public, because I didn't steal this office. You duly elected me to this office. I just think there was a lot of room there to manage the moment yesterday better. He did not, but that's kind of the way I see it. Now there's a way to move forward here. There's a very easy way to move forward. because once again, the resistance is motivated not by empirical data, not by sound philosophy, sound political judgment. The irrational hatred of the resistance is the motivating force. And anytime irrational hatred is a motivating force for being against something, it's not cohesive. It doesn't hold together. And when you look at what Jim Comey, Comey came out yesterday in a tweet and encouraged Republicans to stand tall and vote for Democrats. I mean, that's kind of the deep state internal memo now. They're circulating that memo amongst the John Brennans of the world. And I don't know if any of you picked up on this, but Philip Mudd is a former CIA agent. Currently, he's an intelligence analyst with CNN. Philip Mudd said the night of Trump's, what I refer to as the mistake, people obviously disagree with that, but what I refer to as the mistake, Philip Mudd of CNN immediately said, it's one of the darkest ages of the American presidency. And he added the caveat of, maybe this shadow government needs to rise up. Maybe we need to have a shadow government rise up. He just insinuated to you, if you pay close attention, that there is a deep state. I mean, if he's referring to a shadow government, he's been in the CIA, we know exactly what he's talking about. You got to listen fairly closely to what some of these people say. Every now and then they'll let you in on their game. It's unintentional, and it's motivated by this irrational hatred they have of Donald Trump. So think about it. Philip Mudd, former CIA guy, on CNN says, I'm so concerned for the moving forward of the country that I believe we need to have one of these shadow governments rise up. Well, I mean, he's telling you right there, if you listen closely enough, that there is an element entrenched within our federal government that is perfectly capable of rising up and doing what's necessary to purge itself of Donald Trump and rid itself of this indecent and, the vulgarian. I mean, we've used all these words many, many times before. But Mudd's comments, to me, were very indicative and representative not only of the irrational hate the media has for Donald Trump, but he let the cat out of the bag, as far as I'm concerned, in saying, there's a shadow government. I know about it. I was kind of in on it at one time.